Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Seeds and Weeds podcast brought to you by Small House Farm. Are you a gardener, an herbalist, a forager? Maybe you're just a little plant curious? You've come to the right place. This is Seeds and Weeds. Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. Today, we are talking all about peppers. We're going to be talking about peppers in the garden. We're going to be talking about peppers in the kitchen and peppers in the apothecary. This is a pepper-loaded episode for sure. There's a lot of stuff we're going to cover, so we should get right into it.
And the reason why we chose peppers today is because it's super relevant to the moment. Right now is a great time to be starting your pepper seeds. So peppers are on our minds. It's one of the earliest things that you start. So here we are thinking about peppers. But what makes it extra relevant is that this month it's Plant of the Month in our Patreon membership.
Yeah, this Plant of the Month has been absolutely fantastic. You know, last year we were doing Plant of the Week, and every week we would cover a new plant, dig into it a little bit. You know, if you're only doing it once a week, you could only cover so much. But Plant of the Month has allowed us to really get into the topic with so many different plants. Well, two so far, I guess, but so many different plants coming up.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited about really having more space to think about those plants, to construct the content for our Patreon community, to possibly have more space to communicate back and forth with each other about what they like and what I like and what we see and the different tips and tricks and growing and using and harvesting. And that's a really fun use of the Plant of the Month space. We actually this month have already voted in the Patreon community and over on our Facebook community about which peppers people like the most.
And it seems overwhelmingly that people seem to like sweet peppers the most. 60 to 70% of everybody was saying sweet peppers. Only a couple people like the super hots, it seems.
We had one person comment about loving the nata pina.
Jalapeno. Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So it's a jalapeno, but with none of the heat. No heat. Jalapeno, which is pretty cool. We haven't grown that one here, but we did do the habanada, which is a habanero without the heat, I loved it. It was so great to be able to enjoy the flavor of a habanero because it's really fruity and delicious, but without that heat, that overpowering heat, which makes it so you can't even focus on the flavor. For me, it's like, too much, you know, but the habanada was really, really nice. So that's a fun alternative to these typical hot peppers, these new peppers that are coming out with that have the heat taken out of them. It's kind of fun. So let's talk a little bit more about this Plant of the Month thing happening over on the Patreon, because it really has opened up the door to exploring these plants in such a way we haven't been able to do in that community. You know, like you mentioned, so we're talking about growing the plants and we're talking about using the plants medicinally and we're sharing recipes and we're doing, so many different things with these plants. So it's kind of like the way that we've structured this episode, you know, where we're going to talk about this plant in the garden, in the kitchen, in the apothecary. And here we've just got a short amount of time together to spend talking about it. So for our listeners, if you enjoy this type of content and you find a lot of value in what we're talking about here, go to the Patreon and check that out, because it is what we are doing here, but far more in depth. You know, that we have that space to really explore these plants. So if you're enjoying this, you'll get even more over on our Patreon. And of course, as always, that link is down in the show notes, and you can find it on our website, which is seedsandweedspodcast.com.
And when you join, you get a Patreon shout out. So we got a couple new shout outs we need to say hey to.
We're going to say hey. We're going to say hey, and we're going to say thank you to Jennifer Reeves, to Kathy, Robin, Eileen. Oh, welcome back, Eileen. And to our friend Chrissy Marshall. Thank you so much for being a part of our community. To all of you that I just named and everyone that has been part of our community. Some folks have been there for years now at this point. We would not be able to do many of the things that we do here at Small House Farm, including this podcast, if it wasn't for the support of the folks in our Patreon community.
So let's dive into the pepper, the capsicum.
Yeah, I think the first thing we want to talk about is the name pepper, because in a way it's kind of a misnomer, right? It's not pepper as we think of maybe black pepper. And this comes from, good old Christopher Columbus when he was over here discovering things and taking it home. And he was supposedly trying to find a trade route. He was supposed to find a shortcut to the spices of the world and was supposed to bring back black pepper and wasn't able to do so. So it's a really clever marketing on his part to call this new world pepper that he was able to discover to kind of cover his tracks for being not the world's greatest explorer by any means. And the name is really stuck. Obviously, we still call it peppers, but you'll often see it also called chili. chili peppers, right? And when we explore the word chili, you'll see 3 distinct different ways of spelling this word. So I thought we could unpack that a little bit. It's kind of interesting. We've got chili with an I, C-H-I-L-I. Then we've got it spelled the same way, but with an E at the end, or we've got a version of it that's got 2 L's. All right, so we've got 3 different ways to spell chili, and some people are pretty particular about which one they like to use when they're talking about it. So I kind of got a little explanation here on where it comes from. So in basic American English, we're going to be utilizing the word chili, C-H-I-L-I. That's the most common that you're going to find. We're going to use that word to describe the peppers, but also the soup, chili, that we like to eat, or the chili sauce that we're going to put on chili dogs. You'll often see spelled that same way. The British, on the other hand, they're going to spell it C-H-I-L-L-I. So for our listeners overseas, you're maybe spelling it with 2 L's. I would love to hear from you if you have some thoughts on why we spell the words the way that we do. That'd be really cool. So feel free to reach out anytime. In Spanish-speaking countries, now they're going to be using chili with the E, sort of like it's spelled the same way as the country, Chile, although it's really not related in any way. And you'll see it spelled with an E often in the southwest part of the United States. Places where predominantly there's a lot of Spanish-speaking people are going to use chili, C-H-I-L-E. And I was able to dig back and I found that the word chili itself is first documented in a 16th century dictionary, a compilation of the Aztec language, where they first found the word chili being used to describe the peppers. And obviously, chili's been around for a long time. Chili peppers have been here for far longer than the written word. So there's many, many names over history that it's been used, but those are the ones that we use today.
That's super cool and very interesting. So now that we know what a chili is, now let's talk about how we can get it in our gardens and get growing it, and how we can, really incorporate it into our growing environment.
Well, like you mentioned, the time to start pepper seeds is right now. So for us, as we're recording this is about mid-February when this is going to go out. And mid-February is a pretty good time to get your pepper seeds started, but it really depends on where you live. So we often want to start our pepper seeds about 6 to 8 weeks before our last frost date. That's for your typical peppers. Now, if you're growing the super hots, the capsicum chinense, we're actually going to want to start them a little bit sooner. Those super hot peppers, they're slower to germinate. They take longer to get going. So we could be all the way up to 8 to 10 weeks before the frost date. We're going to want to start those seeds. Now, we have to remember that peppers originally come from Central and South America. These are tropical plants that like a long, hot growing season. And many of us do not have that type of a climate to offer these pepper plants. So that's why we have to start them indoors in advance, so these peppers have a long enough time to live so they can produce these fruits, which is especially important if we're looking for ripe fruits and for seed saving.
So what's really important is that when you do start them inside, that they're in a hot, warm environment. Not only is the soil warm when you plant the seed, but the environment around the tray of seeds is kept warm. They typically won't even sprout unless it's 60 degrees or warmer, the soil and the air surrounding it. So a lot of people like to utilize a heat mat to accomplish that really easily. You put the heat mat right underneath the tray of seeds and it'll really keep it at the right temperature for you.
Absolutely. And we're going to want to use that humidity dome, that clear plastic lid that goes over the seeds. That's going to help trap the heat and moisture around those seeds as well. The heat mat below, and the heat will rise, but that lid will help keep it trapped there below. So some of the equipment that we're going to need, obviously, for starting seeds would be just things like the trays and the shelves and the lights and the heat mats and those things that we're talking about there. We did an episode about this last year where we sort of dug into all the equipment that you need to start seeds, not pepper seeds specifically, just in general, starting seeds indoors. So I'll put a link to that so everybody can check that out if they want to, so they can get a better idea of all the equipment they're going to need.
And we also recently compiled a cool Amazon list of things that we've purchased and used that we recommend. And actually last year I bought these new LED lights for the seed starting shelf, and I really love them. So you can check that list out in the show notes also.
The seed starting medium that we're going to use is a little bit different than garden soil. It's made specifically to be really light and airy, so these tiny seeds can push their way through it and do their thing. So it's important that we have the right equipment so we can have successful seed starting.
So now after your seeds have sprouted, which by the way can take quite some time with peppers, 10, 14 days or longer, depending. So after they've sprouted, after you've pulled that dome off, after the first set of 2 to 3 leaves start growing, then we're going to start talking about pinching the tops. Ben's going to talk about that.
Sure. So the first 2 to 3 sets of true leaves, that's an important thing to note. So the very first leaves that are going to come out when that seed first sprouts, the cotyledon, those are not the true leaves. And then you'll see the next set of leaves that come after that. The first set of true leaves, they look like pepper leaves. So that's what we're looking for. After 2 to 3 sets of true leaves that look like pepper leaves, usually at this point it's time to pot these guys up. They're going to need to move into a slightly larger home, and this is the perfect time to pinch the top. So by pinching the top, it's exactly what it sounds like. We're going to just pinch with our fingers and take the top off that plant right above the leaf node. And what this is going to do is this is going to encourage early branching in the plant. So we're going to get more branching. We're going to get a bigger, bushier, sturdier plant. It's a very, very simple trick that we can do. Just a quick pinch as we're transplanting them, and it's going to really pay off in the long run. Bigger, sturdier plants means more peppers.
And it is really important to keep transplanting up and up and up as that pepper continues to grow before you can get it out in the garden. And actually the pepper roots grow really fast. So you do want to pay attention to that, because if the roots get too compacted in the little tray or in the pots that they're in, then it'll stunt the growth. It'll affect the plant. So if you're really on top of that and keep transplanting up, you'll notice a more successful pepper plant later in the season too.
Absolutely. It's important to make sure these plants are happy. And then we're going to be able to get them out into the garden after the chance of frost. Of course, these plants cannot tolerate any frost. So you got to wait until after your frost date. But more importantly than that, you have to wait until that soil has warmed up.
Yeah, the soil needs to be, like I said, at least 60 degrees. Now, you're temp controlling that soil in your home or in your greenhouse. I mean, it's a lot more controlled. You cannot, just because it stopped frosting outside, cannot just go plant that pepper outside in that cold dirt. It's a lot colder than you realize. So you could actually temp check the soil, and then you'll know. But other than that, just wait a couple more weeks than some of your other plants. You know, it's going to take a little time for that soil to warm up. Sometimes you can speed it up by putting black plastic down on the soil, a tarp, a piece of cardboard, something to help the soil get warmer faster. That'll allow you to get those plants out there faster.
And of course, we're going to want to put these guys out into a full sun area. They need that sun to thrive and be happy. And we're going to space our plants out at least a foot, 1 to 2 feet in between plants is very important here. It's going to depend on the type of pepper that we're growing. Some of them are going to be bigger and need a little bit more space, but on average, about 1 to 2 feet between plants is good spacing.
And what about trellis or support? You know, I think that you automatically think about trellising your tomatoes, but are you thinking about trellising your peppers?
This is important to think about, especially if your peppers are going to do really well. There's going to be a lot of fruit there. And if you're growing a type of pepper that has a large fruit, it's going to get quite heavy, which it could become top heavy for your plant. So a little bit of support is going to be nice for them. You could do like a Florida weave or something like we do with the tomatoes. You could put a stake in and tie it to it, whatever you want to do. But what I always like to recommend, actually, tomato cages. Now, the tomato cages that you can purchase are basically useless when it comes to growing tomatoes. They're not big enough to do anything, but they're perfect for supporting pepper plants. So I love to use those tomato cages out there to hold these pepper plants up.
Especially if you put that tomato cage on the plant before it's too large, you know, then it can kind of grow into the cage a little bit better. And you don't have as much risk of, like, if you try to shove a tomato cage on top of a already big plant, you may break a branch, you may break a fruit that's forming. So do that sooner than you think.
And then we're also going to want to take care of these plants throughout the season, right? We don't really prune pepper plants like we would tomatoes, but we do want to feed them at some point throughout the season. Now, we make a nice comfrey tea it's a nice all-purpose liquid fertilizer that we use for most of the plants around here. And we did a whole video on YouTube about it. So we'll link that, so you guys can check that out if you want to try and make it. But I love to feed these plants, especially when they begin their reproductive cycle, when they're starting to flower and they're preparing to reproduce, to make fruits. It's an important time to give them just a little boost, give them a little that good stuff to help them get through the process.
And by comfrey tea, he doesn't mean we're brewing a cup of tea in the house and pouring it on the plant. No, we're making 5-gallon buckets of basically comfrey plant in a bucket filled with water, let it ferment for a couple days, and it becomes this, super powerful fertilizer.
Yes. Yeah. Don't just brew a cup of tea. Good point. That's a good point. And then we get to our favorite part of the whole thing, picking the peppers.
Yeah. But the key is that when is my pepper ripe? I mean, obviously some of them seem obvious, but maybe they're not even as obvious as you think. You know, when we buy a jalapeno from the store, it's green. The jalapeno isn't ripe.
Well, so let's unpack this a little bit, right? Because we will pick jalapenos when they're green to use them in the kitchen, and that's fantastic. But we can also leave them on the plant to turn red, and then we can pick them and eat them that way. And if we're growing any of these plants to save seeds from them, we absolutely have to leave these peppers on the plant to ripen. So jalapeno is a great example of one we don't typically see ripe. Poblano is another one. We're going to harvest those and eat them when they're green. A green bell pepper, well, if you leave it on the plant, it's probably going to turn into a red bell pepper, right? So understanding what we want from this plant will help us determine when's the perfect time to pick it.
So now that we picked the peppers, now we can take them in the kitchen and use them.
This is my favorite, absolute favorite part. I love growing them, but I love eating them even more.
Heck yeah. And I mean, we use a range of peppers from sweet to super hot. I feel like I probably find my happy spot right in that spicy pepper range, but I'm sure you're familiar and heard of that Scoville scale that tells us how spicy our specific peppers are, which is interesting to look at and know before you plant a pepper or buy a pepper.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a gauge to let us know on average this is how spicy this pepper is going to be. The higher the number on the Scoville scale, the spicier the pepper's going to be.
But have you ever cooked a jalapeno and realized that, oh my gosh, it's really spicy once it's cooked? Or have you ate a raw jalapeno and been like, this doesn't have any spice at all? Or maybe it is. I feel like it's so random sometimes that it's not always exactly the same.
Well, yeah, let's say something about shishito peppers. Shishito peppers are classic. You know, you get them blistered and sauteed at restaurants very often, and they're usually a mild pepper. But about 1 in every 10 is going to knock your socks off because it's super hot and spicy. And you don't know that it's going to happen until it's happening to you. So even though the scale might say that this is a really spicy pepper or whatever, that's not always going to be the case. There's going to be some variance. It's Mother Nature, you know, so you have to expect that diversity a little bit. Sometimes you're going to get some surprises. But the spice of the pepper actually comes from a chemical called capsaicin. So it's the amount of capsaicin that's in the pepper that's going to determine its spiciness. And the Scoville rating is just really a general terminology, just to give you a little bit of understanding so you can choose peppers based on your personal preference.
So a sweet pepper would have less capsaicin than, let's say, a habanero or a ghost pepper that will have a lot of capsaicin. Caps.
Exactly. I mean, eating peppers, we don't have to spend too much time on this because everybody's eating a pepper. Most everybody, I won't generalize, we'll say most everybody's possibly eaten a pepper or know somebody that has eaten a pepper in their life. We can eat them fresh. We can chop them up and eat them just like that. We can saute them and fry them. We can put them in soups. We can put them in our chili. We can dry them and turn them into spice, grind them into paprika. We can turn them into hot sauce. There's so many different things that we can do with peppers, but I'm pretty sure everybody is used peppers in at least one of those ways before.
Definitely. It's a pretty versatile fruit that I think we've all experienced. So one thing that's kind of interesting about it is that some pepper names actually change from their fresh name to after they dried, then they're referred to as a different name. So, you know, this is something to note when you're looking for certain spices or fresh peppers or dried peppers, that occasionally the names are different.
Right. So if you like ancho chili, which is the dried name of a poblano pepper, you want to grow ancho chilies, you actually need to grow poblano peppers, right? I think the most famous example of this, of course, is the jalapeno. The jalapeno as a fresh fruit, that's what it's called. But once it's dried, it's actually smoked to dry the jalapeno specifically, and it becomes a chipotle. So if you like chipotle peppers and you want that in your garden, you got to grow the jalapeno.
We actually have quite an extensive experience and or I guess that's what you would call it, making hot sauce throughout the past 15 years of random experiments of hot sauce.
So many different hot sauces. So we have made fermented style hot sauces. We were on a big tangent with that for a while. We went down to Tabasco factory, down where they grow the Tabasco peppers to make the Tabasco sauce. And that really got us turned on to these ideas of these fermented sauces. So we did quite a bit of that for a while. We've done just straight fresh sauces where essentially you take your peppers and you run them through the food processor with some other ingredients to turn it into a sauce. We've done smoked. Another thing that we like to do is we just dry a lot of peppers and turn it into like a red pepper flake type of spice that we use for a lot of things in the kitchen. And we use all the peppers. Now, sometimes you'll see these products and they're specialized, you know, like a Tabasco sauce, that's made from Tabasco peppers. Frank's Red Hot, that's made from cayenne peppers. It's a single varietal sauce, and that's cool. But I just like to mix it all together. Whatever we grow, it goes into the dehydrator, it becomes the spice. So then each blend of spice is unique to that year's garden. It's one of a kind. It's got everything that we grew in there. Sweet peppers, hot peppers, super hots, whatever happened to be harvested at the time goes into it. And they are one of a kind vintage, of that particular garden. It's a snapshot of what we grew that season.
Especially because, at the end of the season when the frost is coming, we may just pull all the unripe peppers off the plants, put them right in the dehydrator. They become these spice blends for later. It's a really great way to randomly come up with a blend without thinking too much about it.
Yep, for sure. So when we're thinking about drying peppers, we want to kind of think about the thickness of the flesh of the fruit is going to help us determine how we need to dry it. So if we think about something like a cayenne pepper, it's got a very thin wall, very easy to dry. You can literally just hang bundles and they will just air dry and they'll be perfectly fine. But you can't do that with the fruit like a jalapeno because it's got a much thicker wall. Right, it's very juicy and it's going to go bad just hanging like that. So those types of fruits then do need to go through the dehydrator, either your food dehydrator or you could smoke them, put them through your smoker or whatever it might be to work that moisture out of it so it can properly dry. That's an important thing to note when you're determining the process of how you want to preserve your harvest, because that's what we're doing here when we're making spice mixes or smoked peppers or hot sauces. These are just preservation techniques so we can save the harvest to enjoy throughout the winter season as well.
And the thickness of the wall really comes into play when we talk about peppers in the apothecary. And we were just talking earlier this morning about maybe that's why people choose cayenne peppers more frequently for your medicinal apothecary type applications, because how quickly it can be dried, how large it is. It's got a good capsaicin quantity.
Well, so what it's going to come down to here is, when you look at almost any herbal that mentions chili peppers in some form, and I'm guilty of this as well in books that I've written, we talk about cayenne peppers. That seems to be the go-to medicinal pepper. And why would that be? It's not the cayenne pepper itself that's medicinal. It's the capsaicin content in the pepper that gives it its medicinal value, right? So there are other peppers available that have equal or even higher quantities of capsaicin in them. So why is it the cayenne pepper? So we were figuring it out. And obviously the thin wall, is the thickness of the fruit is going to be an important deciding factor here because it's going to be easy to process. It's easy to dry. It's easy to store. They're long, skinny fruits, so you can get quite a bit of it. The plants are very, very productive. It's a plant that you can grow in many climates and it's going to produce well for you. So there's some of that universal factor to the cayenne pepper. But at the end of the day, you can make medicinal products from any spicy pepper. That's an important thing to know. Whatever kind of spicy pepper you're growing, you can then turn that into an apothecary product.
And peppers are known for a couple different medicinal benefits, specifically topical pain relief being probably the most popular.
Topically, right? So this is going to increase our circulation. It's going to promote blood flow. It desensitizes the pain receptors. So it is great for arthritis and inflammation. It's fantastic for sore and tired muscles. We make a topical salve that's got cayenne peppers, of course, is what we use. And it's awesome stuff. It's fantastic for topical pain relief.
It can be a great digestive support tool, and it can help stimulate sluggish digestion. It can help bloating or maybe low appetite. It basically really stimulates that digestive system.
Yeah, right. And so we can just put more hot peppers in our food. That's the easiest way to utilize that medicine, Put a little hot sauce on it.
I mean, I gotta put hot sauce on everything.
Yeah, right.
I mean, every time we eat something, I'm like, what would make this better? More hot sauce.
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the ways that we can prepare our medicinal peppers for use?
Well, the infused oil probably being the most popular for those topical pain relief things we mentioned earlier. I mean, you can infuse those cayenne peppers in an oil and then use the oil straight up. You can craft that oil into a salve, a balm, a lotion, or whatever as for easier application. It's really popular as a internal digestive helper, like a fire cider, or a honey is another way to ingest the cayenne pepper like that.
It's important to note, though, you want to avoid consuming too many chili peppers if you have an ulcer, acid reflux, if you have a sensitive digestive system. You certainly don't want to get peppers, the capsaicin specifically, in your eyes, your mucous membrane. So you can just use your imagination for any sensitive place on your body you don't want a spicy pepper to be at. That's what I'm talking about. So you want to make sure that you wash your hands after handling these hot peppers. You can wear gloves when you're working with hot peppers, and that's what I would recommend. But if you don't listen to that advice, you're going to want to wash your hands.
Yeah, you'll learn your lesson. I mean, and really, actually, even washing your hands sometimes doesn't take away the, it soaks right into your skin, and it can really carry with you for a day or two.
What you want to think about here is actually washing your hands with milk. Milk's going to be really nice. It's just like, how when you eat spicy food and you drink water, it doesn't seem to help, but drinking milk does. It's because capsaicin is fat soluble. So the fat molecules in the milk will absorb it and take it away. So if you get it on your hands, it's more effective to actually wash your hands with milk, oil, butter, whatever sort of fat-based, product you have nearby is going to be what you want to use, or put that milk in any place that you accidentally put a hot pepper.
Yeah, we've had a little experience with that. So trust us.
Trust us.
There's so much to understand and learn about peppers in the garden and the kitchen, the apothecary, but we really touched on a lot of good things today in this quick podcast episode. You can find a cool variety of seeds on our website. If you're interested in starting your own pepper seeds from home, we have like 6 to 10 different varieties on the website, depending on, the stock quantities and what's left for the year, but you should check that out.
Yeah, I'm going to plug a couple actually real quick here. We got some really nice ones. We got like the classic Calabrian chilies. We got pepperoncinis on there. We got some poblanos. We got these really cool mini bell pepper. It's a mix of all these different colored mini sweet bell peppers, which is totally awesome. Rainforest chili, that's been a big hit around here. That's actually capsicum bacatum. It's a different species than many of the other peppers that you might grow. Really nice small bush, guys. So if you're growing in a small space, this rainforest chili is going to be nice. But this auxilio pepper, it's a sweet, it's got a little bit of heat to it, but so a mildly spicy pepper, we're going to say. And I just want to tell you this is the description off the website. This auxilio pepper is a unique Italian heirloom that was first brought to the United States by Giovanni Auxilio in the early 1900s. It's a thin-skinned pepper, ideal for stuffing, frying, or adding a touch of heat to your sauces. The plants only get about 24 inches, 2 feet tall, and they are loaded with tasty peppers. That's the auxilio pepper. Again, there's a link to all these peppers down on the website. You can check out our whole seed shop if you want. Get those seeds quick, though, because it's time to start planting. You got to be planting, and the time is now. Well, here we are at the end of yet another show together. I hope you enjoyed our episode all about peppers. This episode was edited and produced by all of us here at Small House Farm. And the music we're enjoying right now is a little bit of smooth jazz from the Tune Tank. Remember, if you like the Seeds and Weeds podcast, you can always show your support by joining our community on Patreon. You can find a link to that and so much more at seedsandweedspodcast.com. Thanks again for hanging out, friends. We'll see you next time.